Lovelies. So I've been going through a bit this year, so I'm going to do a little section on mental health, I think, but not just about mental health, about psychic ability, and really telling you a little bit about myself, because I've been pushed to make a lot of these videos to share what I know and to speak out in my own channel, in my own way, without being shut down, because I find that happens an awful lot with me. I am a misfit, I'm a weirdo, finally claimed that a few years ago by stamping tattoos on my face. People are going to stare at me, give them a reason, being disabled most of my life, diagnosed with arthritis at the age of 19, and suspected that I've had it my whole life, all through childhood, very poorly child, etc. You stand out, you always do, but I don't know if it is the disability or just who I am. I try and find balance with hubris and humility, which is what I think I'll call this part, because I'm pretty sure this is going to go over several videos. I have a lot of self-confidence and self-belief, but I also have an incredible amount of self-doubt, and put on me from a young age, why can't you be like your siblings, always having to do things different, find my way of doing things, always asking questions, I don't know if I've mentioned before, being raised Mormon, they don't like being questioned. They certainly don't like women questioning them, A lot of people find hope and they find catharsis and they find their path in the Mormon religion, and I respect that. When I was younger, I was quick to anger, quick to judge, because I've been brought up with a very strict set of morals and ethics. My nan, being of sort of gypsy blood, had that you can only trust family. So my blood family tends to be quite a sort of toxic bubble. So we were raised kind of secluded and from society. Myself and my siblings were quite badly bullied, in the town we grew up in. My maiden name, Tummons. If any of you ever come across it, you'll remember chasing us down the street, surrounding our house, screaming Tummons alert, Tummons is a Jippo. Somehow people just knew. And honestly, my parents didn't do a lot to change that. They were blinded by their own hubris and faith, and they lacked the humility and well, I don't know, balance in sort of giving their children a hand in life, especially when it came to things like sex. We just didn't talk about it. My mum was abused as a child. We suspect my dad was. He was raised in a children's home for many years after his mum died, pretty fucked up trauma, Generational trauma is something my daughter herself has been looking into. And certainly what she is discovering about herself and as she grows up is certainly helping me as well, because when I grew up being Gen X, we didn't have those terms. We didn't have access to that information on why does it feel like, as a friend of mine put up in terms of the grief that she's going through with losing her daughter, like there's a constant scream in my head and no one else can hear it. And it was only sort of mid last year, shortly after losing my dad, that I saw counselling and finally came to terms with the fact that I'm living with trauma. As they term it, CPTSD, complex PTSD, but it's these things that I discover, discovering gender identities. When I grew up, they didn't, you had trans, you didn't have as much pigeonholes, I guess, as you do now. And, we all want to belong. At the end of the day, we are animals, humans, and we're herd animals, and we want to belong, and, discovering my own genderqueer identity. It's all very freeing, but for me, it doesn't quantify me, doesn't define me. it just validates some of this scream that is constant in my head. It is hard to live in modern society, and I believe that that is why there's such a prevalence of mental health difficulties, you know. But my nan and my mum also raised us to not let it define us, you know, stop whining and get on with it, you know what I mean? And I do believe that in a lot of ways, you know, that far too many people allow these things to define them and excuse the way they live. Saw a kid once wearing a t-shirt saying, "I'm autistic, what's your excuse?" It's not an excuse. Do you know what I mean? And that is what I find most frustrating with the sort of morals and ethics that I grew up with, and discovering the heathen path, which it sits well with my values. You know, even though I'm not a believer in how others set down a path, like the 9 noble values, for example, you know, that's very Christian. But, you know, also the 9 noble values and the 10 commandments, they're all just sort of definitions, rules, if you like, for being a decent person, you know. And that's what I aim to be, you know. People who have known me in my past and my present know that I can be a bit of a vicious cunt, and I am in no denial of my cuntiness, you know. But it's reactionary, not, you know, it's defense, not offense. You know, I go in, I'm a very direct speaking person, you know. So, you know, if you do something that is a bit crossing the line, a bit dicky, I'll be very direct with you, you know. I don't want to speak to you. Thank you. I don't consider that rude. I consider that respectfully direct. There is, in my mind, part of the imbalance that we're going through at the moment is people being far too nice. I find this with being disabled, actually. You know, you get 3 reactions when I'm out in my wheelchair. You get those who are really quite ignorant about it, almost jealous, you know. I had a lady once leaning on the back of my wheelchair as we went up the lift, so I ran over her feet on the way out, and when she said something, I said, "Well, don't lean on the back of my wheelchair." That's like leaning on somebody's shoulders. My wheelchair was an extension of myself. And, well, I mean, actually, previously she was complaining because the people at the lift, this is in one of the museums in London, you know, there were, you know, categories of who gets priority, and wheelchairs were the highest priority, you know. And, you know, we'd got there after this particular lady, but we were invited onto the lift first because of the priority. And, well, yeah, obviously I went on, but, you know, this woman had a problem with it. Anyway, so you get those who are almost jealous, in fact. Sorry, down here is a moo dog who's looking for a bit of attention, you know. And then you get those who try and, you know, oh no, ignore that the disability is there, you know. They don't even want to look you in the eye, you know. It's like, look at you and look away, you know. And you know, anybody with tattoos who dresses a little bit alternative knows that one, you know. And then there are those that treat you as if it doesn't even exist, treat you like a person, because that's what we are, you know. We're people. And that's really the basis of what I want to talk about here, you know. I've been overwhelmed by my rage, you know, self-righteous and blinkered in my cause, you know, and a great deal of hubris and arrogance in I'm better, you know. So I'm going to pause this here and continue to the next one. So this first part was just a bit of a ramble on finding balance in mental health. Okay, see you in a bit.